My husband's mother didn't hide what she was doing. She took my passport first, said it was for safekeeping. Then my bank cards, one by one. She framed it as concern. I was young, married into their family, and apparently too emotional to handle money. My husband stayed silent. Worse than silence, he agreed with her, nodded along at dinner while she explained how all major decisions would go through her now. Where I went, what I bought, who I spoke to. They moved me into their house under the excuse of renovations. My phone was checked, my calls timed. If I stayed out too long, she'd sit in the living room when I came back, lights off, like a warden waiting. Hey, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the bell. Your support means everything and helps me keep creating. Thank you so much. Every time I pushed back, she smiled and said the same line. You have nothing. Where would you even go? And she was right on paper. The accounts were empty. My name wasn't on anything. Even my salary went straight into an account she controlled for budgeting. I was isolated carefully, professionally. No shouting, no bruises, just total control wrapped in politeness. What she didn't know was that I wasn't alone. She had never met my father. He lived in another city. Quiet man. Old money, but not flashy. He had taught me one rule growing up. If someone rushes to take control of your life, let them think they've succeeded. People get sloppy when they think you're trapped. So I waited. I followed the rules, smiled at dinners, handed over receipts, apologized when she said I was difficult. I even let her believe I was scared of her. Meanwhile, every Sunday night, I made one call from the landline when everyone was asleep. No names, no drama, just updates. She's escalating. He's complicit. I'm ready when you are. The night everything shifted came unexpectedly. She announced at dinner that she decided to sell the small apartment my parents had helped us buy, the last thing I thought I still had. She spoke like it was already done, like my consent was irrelevant. Then she looked at me and said, "You'll sign the papers tomorrow." I nodded. That night, my phone buzzed for the first time in months. One message, "Don't sign anything." I land at 9:10 a.m. She had no idea that by trying to erase me completely, she'd finally crossed into my father's world. And he does not negotiate. She woke me early the next morning, knocked once, then entered without waiting. A folder under her arm. Crisp. Heavy. She wore that satisfied look she always saved for moments she believed were final. "Dress properly," she said. "This is a legal office, not a cafe." On the drive, she talked nonstop about how expensive lawyers were, how lucky I was she handled these things, how my husband would be so relieved once everything was simplified. He sat in the front seat, didn't turn around once. I watched the city pass by and counted the minutes. 9:07 a.m. We reached the office early. She hated being late, marched us in, greeted the receptionist by first name. This wasn't her first time here. That should have scared me. Instead, I felt calm, almost detached. The lawyer came out, middle-aged, polite. He nodded at my mother-in-law, then at my husband. When his eyes landed on me, they paused. "You must be," he started. Before I could answer, she cut in. "The wife. She'll sign." He hesitated, then gestured for us to sit. The papers were laid out. Tabs marked. "Sign here. Initial there." My name typed again and again like it was already a formality. "Read quickly," she said. "We don't have all day." I picked up the pen. 9:10 a.m. The door to the office opened. Footsteps. Unhurried. Confident. A man's voice said calmly, "I think you do." Everyone turned. My father didn't look angry. That was the worst part for them. He looked professional. Dark coat. No rush in his movement. He walked in like he belonged there, because he did. The lawyer stood immediately. "Mr. Rahman," he said, startled. "I wasn't aware you were." "You weren't supposed to be," my father replied. Then he looked at me. "You okay?" I nodded. My mother-in-law stood up too, laughing sharply. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "This is a private. My daughter's assets are being transferred under coercion," my father said, finally meeting her eyes. "Which makes it my business." Her smile cracked for the first time. He placed his briefcase on the table and opened it. Inside were documents thicker than the folder she'd brought. He slid them across to the lawyer. "These accounts," he said, "were set up when she was 19. Silent partnership. Trust managed. You'll notice the balances." The lawyer's face changed as he flipped pages. My husband leaned forward. "What is this?" My father didn't look at him. "This is what happens when you mistake silence for weakness." He turned to the lawyer again. "You'll also find that the apartment you're attempting to sell was never jointly owned. The down payment came from a protected family trust. Any sale requires consent from all trustees." The lawyer swallowed. "That consent hasn't been given." My mother-in-law's voice sharpened. "That's impossible. We handle the finances." "Yes," my father said calmly. "You handled what you could see." She turned on me. "You lied to us." I met her gaze for the first time, without flinching. "No, you never asked the right questions." The lawyer closed the folder slowly. "This transaction can't proceed. And frankly, I'm concerned about the circumstances under which it was initiated." My father nodded. "As you should be." The room went quiet. Then my father added, almost casually, "Also, effective immediately, my daughter's salary will no longer be deposited into any account you control. Payroll has already been notified." My husband stood up. "You can't just—" My father finally looked at him. "Sit down. You've said enough for a lifetime." He sat. We left 10 minutes later. No shouting, no scenes, just the sound of control slipping away from people who'd never imagined it could. Outside, my father handed me a new phone. "Your number," he said, "your accounts, your documents, all returned." I held it like it was fragile. "What happens now?" I asked. He looked back at the building. "Now they find out what it's like when someone else sets the rules." And that was when my husband's phone started ringing. Over and over. He didn't answer. Neither did his mother. They were about to learn that control only works as long as the person you're controlling believes they're alone. I never was. That night, my husband finally spoke. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just panic. His mother had already discovered the truth. The accounts she managed were frozen. The credit cards declined. The property sale flagged. The lawyer stopped answering her calls. Control vanished in one afternoon. He stood in the doorway, voice low. "You let this happen." I looked at him and felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. "No," I said. "You assumed I was small." He scoffed. "You needed us." I smiled for the first time in months. "You needed access." The next morning, I filed quietly. No drama. No threats. Just paperwork. The kind that actually matters. My father never interfered again. He didn't need to. The lesson had landed. Weeks later, I heard his mother was telling people I'd been manipulated, that I'd been turned against the family. She wasn't wrong about one thing. I was turned toward myself, toward a life where love doesn't require surrender, and silence isn't mistaken for obedience. They lost